into that. Fucking idiots. What is up, peoples of YouTube? I'm the Motorcycle Mick, and today we're gonna find out if Harley's in trouble, because Indian's releasing this badass 108, so we're gonna put these two motors head to head. Of course, that is on paper, because this bike isn't even out yet. This motor doesn't exist until we can actually get in our possession, do a proper, But before I get too far into that, if you are new to this channel, or you have been watching for a very long time, hit that subscribe button down below. My channel's all about motorcycles, and I upload videos every Tuesday and Thursday around 3 o'clock, 3 Eastern Standard Time. And don't forget, right now I am doing 2 giveaways. One for a few sets of these gloves. I'm going to be giving them out to people at 500 subs, and at 1,000 subs I'm going to be giving away a Bell helmet. It's going to have all the livery on it, and it's going to look awesome. But going back to what I was talking about, is Harley in trouble? Because the two motors I'm comparing right now, displacement wise, should not be on the same level, but on paper they are. And Indian is bringing out their A game for this frickin' motor. And finally, I think we have someone to hold Harley accountable. If of course you don't know what I'm talking about, is that Indian has released some little teasers and a few other things about the new bike called the Challenger they're bringing out. And it, you know, I said it resembles a Road Glide. It's because it does, but there's been a lot of butthurt people. It still looks like a Road Glide. They could have made something really cool doing like an X fairing or something like that. Now we just get a Road Glide with one headlight. For some reason, people think that I want to see Indian fail, but in reality, it's Polaris, and I don't want to see Polaris fail because they made the certain brand bike that's my favorite. And if they still would have been making them when I bought my motorcycle, I probably would have got one, but they weren't. So rest in peace, Victory. You go to the place with the dynos, and let's jump into this comparison of Power Plus 108 from Indian, or Polaris, whoever you want to say it is, versus Harley Davidson's top-of-the-line CVO 117. I'm going to start off with the Defender, and most people know is like, you know, I do love Harleys. I love the company. I love what they've been at, but damn it, man, they've really gotten lackadaisical with their motors. That being said, everyone's saying, oh, well, they've gotten the new Milwaukee 8. I have a Milwaukee 8. I love it. The problem I run into is that they have built such a good motor, and if you say it's not a good motor, you're full of crap. It's a good motor, but they used cheap parts. So they have parts that fail. You have oil sumping, you know, and people say it's on performance motors, but I've had a lot of subscribers talk to me and say that it's not just on the performance ones, it's on my bike too. I have it, or oil transfer. So you bring out this brand new motor, and yes, most motors have their little quirks and kinks that you got to figure out. These bikes have been out since 2017. It's been almost 3 years. What else, what further do we know? People have the issues, but there's not really one single way to identify it. And I feel like Harley had such a good shot and then dropped the ball. But on paper, let's take a look at the 117. And if you don't know what that is, look at this picture right mirror. That is Harley Davidson's CVO 117. This is their top of the line, their creme de la creme. You get this only when you buy a CVO. You can buy a 117 kit, but factory you cannot get the 117 on any other bike except for a CVO. That being said, the bike does come with the CVO heads, which are machined, poured and polished. They have the +1 exhaust valve, and if you don't know what I mean, on the 114s that are on this bike, or the 107s, the heads have a smaller exhaust valve. You can get air in, but getting air out might fare a little more difficult for you. So they do have the +1. They have the 62mm intake that's from Screaming Eagle. I mean, it's Screaming Eagle the hell out. It's got the cam, everything, and it's a performance motor. It is water cooled, but there is an oil cooled version for the 114s for the CVO models. But the 117 is water cooled, which means, you guessed it, the radiators are in your hard loaders. They are not removable, so if you want to take them off for the warmer weather, good luck, you can. Sucks to suck. It does have the 117 jugs. It's got all the cool pistons. It's got 4 valves per head. That's something with the Milwaukee 8. It comes with the 4 valves for a head, and it's got 4 spark plugs. 4, yeah, that's 4 spark plugs. On their bench test, and these numbers I'm going to say are bench tests, because when someone says, like, Like Harley's website says rated for 125 foot-pounds of torque. It means it's rated for that, so it can have that. But I feel like there's some work that needs to be done to get there. It's already got all the goodies inside of the motor to be able to do it. It could be an exhaust, it could be a tune. And then Harley really doesn't release horsepower marks for that. Harley normally only release torque numbers. I don't know why, but I saw a couple videos of dynos of the CVO 117s, and they were anywhere from 95 to 100 horsepower and respectively 115 to 120 foot-pounds of torque. But the downside of that is, to get that motor, you A, have to buy a bike that has a Milwaukee 8 and then pay to get the 117 installed on your motorcycle, or B, you have to buy a CVO. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't have 50 grand to spend on a CVO. But the 117 is a good motor. It does, the whole oil sumping issue is going back to not a big enough oil. With those ones, it's not big enough oil pump. It's not vented. You gotta be able to get that pressure out of the system. But overall, the 117 is a badass motor. It's got a lot of torque, a lot of giddy up and go. I mean, it's a 117, so if we're doing a size contest, besides getting a 120, or I guess for Milwaukee, it's a 124 or 128 kit on it. Something about Harleys that I don't know if a lot of people understand is like the actual V-twin motor that Harley has, the design of it. That 45 degree is patented. So Harley's motors have always been 45 degree for like the big twins. When you get into like the smaller ones, they can change, but Harley's for the most part has had the big twins. And that's one downside that Harley has, is when they have a 45 degree angle, that means your piston's working like this. It means that your piston has to work more against vertical and horizontal gravity, because what I mean by that is, when vertical gravity is going up and down, something that's going to pull you down. Horizontal gravity is going to be something that's going to pull you over. And don't get me wrong, Harleys sound badass and they have a lot of torque and a lot of potential to them. But then we go over to the new contender, which is the 108 Power Plus from Indian, or I'll say Polaris. They have brought out a badass motor, and it's only 108 cubic inches. This Power Plus has the freaking 4 valves per head. It's got the water cooling like Harley's, but it does not have those hard lowers. So I don't know where they're gonna have like the radiator or a go back for it, but that's one added benefit, is where hard lowers become an option on your motorcycle if you want water cooled. So wherever they have that reservoir for that, that's really cool. I think that's a good choice for them. I think it's something Harley should really kind of go after. When we go back to Indian, they're bringing out this 60 degree behemoth 108, 4 valves per cylinder. I don't know about, I didn't really actually look at spark plugs. I think that's something I should have looked at. I think if they're doing the 4 valves per cylinder, they got to have 4 spark plugs. I mean, that's got to be something they got to have to help with that. But it becomes an option on paper in a bench test. Numbers that Indian released for that bike, that 108. So it gets you, this is 108 cubic inches compared to Harley's 117. That 108 is releasing in like 130 foot-pounds of torque. That is insane for 108. Hey, what's up? I love that. I love when stuff like that happens. But that 108 is putting out that kind of power with the Victory / Indian / Polaris motors. They are 60 degrees, so they have the ability to produce more power with less strain. And that's because that 60 degree, instead of being like this, you're going up here and you're getting more vertical power to it. Less vertical strain, less horizontal strain, and it's working almost like a freaking inline 4-cylinder, 4-banger, whatever you want to call that kind of motor. It's working almost close to that, because that's 20 degrees. That's 20 degrees from this to this. So you get that power when you need it and less strain. Along with that, unlike Harley's, where we have our cam under our timing cover, this motor has overhead cams. Now, if you don't know what that means, unlike our Harleys where we have the camshaft down where the timing cover is that pushes a rod up, when you have overhead cams, what that does is runs a chain up there and puts that valve being opened directly, almost directly off the camshaft. So what that does, allows for quicker breathing, faster breathing, because you don't have that time from that rod to lift up. It'd be like if you were looking at something on the ceiling and I gave you a tube to go push it. You had that time to move that whole object, versus someone that's standing there can just And I think that's something that's restricted Harley, and I think that's something that Harley needs to learn off of in this competition that's between the two brands. You can be a Harley fan all you want, but Polaris is making some pretty badass motors. And if Harley came out with something like that, people would be excited. But because it's on a Polaris, people are like, oh man, look at that bike, it's ugly. Look past the bike, look to the motor that's being put into it. It is awesome. And I hate to admit that because I love my 114. But when you have a 108 that can put out more power than my 114, and granted, Polaris has not been hit by the EPA yet. They haven't had to deal with that because they've had I think they had Polaris brand before, and then Polaris is still an American-made company. Don't let yourself be kidded by that. So these are two American companies that are duking it out, and Harley needs to step their game up. But since I'm sitting at another red light in Boone, I'm gonna end this video here, guys. Let me know what you think about this. I wanna know what your honest opinion about these two motors is. And don't just sit there and say Indian's junk or Harley's junk. I wanna know what you guys actually think about these numbers between the two and what the market that this could create. Because the people that are gonna sit there and be like, well, fuck Indian, fuck them, fuck Harley, are gonna be the ones that sit there and ruin the market for us. Because we have competition, we all actually are the ones that win, because then people start making better stuff. They gotta put it for a better price, and we all know that Harleys are not cheap, and neither are Indian. And as always, I hope you have a great day, evening, night, morning, afternoon, tea, brunch, lunch, nightcap, McGriddle, bacon sandwich, crumpet, hello. And remember to always ride for freedom. Goodbye.
This shit is old school. They say I'm not supposed to, but I make my own rules. Dawg, this shit is old school. Yo, bitch, man, that's old news. She been on my whole crew. Yeah, that chick is ran through. Ha. This shit sound like old tool. Pull up and I drop the roof, and that bitch a old school. These niggas acting brand new, I just keep it old.